So I'll just tell you a little bit as well, Tina. What is the BEwell and what do I do and why I do it? Because it's been going on now for the last 9 months. And BEwell stands for business and entrepreneurial well-being. Okay, and this came about from my experience as an entrepreneur running my school for the last 25 years, nearly. I saw that there was a lot of focus on running the business and looking at the revenues, the profit margin, and so on, and very little focus on actually looking after myself, on the mental well-being of the entrepreneur. Right. And so what happened was there was obviously ups and downs, because there were moments where I was just out of control with emotional content, but I felt like I was on my own. I was isolated, because being the entrepreneur, sometimes you can't even confide in the people around you. And so there was a lot of happening around me, but all the focus was on business. And so when I started thinking about, I'm in a phase now where I'm connecting and I'm give back. And I thought, what can I give back? And give back my knowledge of running a business. But I said, okay, what is also important is if you're mentally strong and you have a good wellness about you, you can run a good business. And so I started these webinars to bring on people, experts, not like myself, experts who are, experts specialized in certain fields of business, but also of mental well-being. So every week I invite a guest speaker like yourself today, who comes along and they'll speak about their specialization for about 20 minutes, half an hour. And then we open the panel so everyone else can ask questions around the topic. And so that was the reason it was called BEwell, meaning not just, in Italian, stare bene, but BEwell meaning business and entrepreneurial wellness. Okay, so we've had various topics, from even things like metaverse branding, we've had values, we've had ChatGPT, everything. So anything that comes along that I find interesting, I look for a guest speaker who can bring more light and more knowledge on the subject. So that's the aim. And today we have Tina Saxena, who, is that the right way to say your surname?
More or less, Tina Saxena.
Saxena, there you are. Saxena. And professional coach. And so thank you for coming along. Today's topic is decluttering, like, just getting that word in your mouth. And we want to know, what is it? And is it some sort of like a detox, or is it some sort of like a discarding, or what is that, decluttering? And so I want to know how that plays a role, and whether it's an important role in business, in life, how it can help us, how it can actually give us a little bit more control on what we do.
Sure. So thank you.
So Tina, thank you for being here, and perhaps you can introduce yourself, and then we can go into the subject of decluttering.
Right. So my name is Tina. I've put on a lot of hats, as they say. I've not ever. I'm one of those who is traditionally defined as a jack of all trades and master of some, because whatever I do, I like to do it well, and I like to go in depth into it. And over many years, half a century, I have mastered a few trades and a lot of life experience and quite a few things which I love sharing. So the journey to become a life coach was also part of that. And even this topic which you brought up, decluttering, and I thought about it and I said, well, I haven't really ever given a presentation on it, though I have applied it to my life. So as and when I've gone through life, I have kind of chosen something which has been a passion, gone deep into it, collected information, stuff, everything related to it, which we all do as a hobby or even as a passion. And then as I moved on to the next one, whatever was the excess of it became clutter. So it needed to be gotten rid of. There are a few of us. Welcome to this webinar. Welcome and thank you for being here for the time. And I'm going to start with basically a presentation, and then let's see how it goes.
Yeah, because the word Tina, declutter. Is it a word that's in your vocabulary? Do you use it or not?
Not anymore. But there was a time when I did tell myself I needed to declutter. And decluttering, sometimes we talk about stuff, whereas it is way beyond that. It can apply to so many parts of our life, so many things. It, like you said, it can be business, it can be life, it can be the house, it can be the spaces, the physical spaces. We also have digital clutter these days. We all have these files and images and stuff piling up, which needs to be gotten rid of. And then we have a lot of mental clutter at times because we are bombarded with so much of information and so much of news. And clutter distracts us from whatever is important for us. Another thing, clutter cannot be organized. So the fact that we speak about organizing clutter, that's a paradox because you cannot organize clutter, you can only get rid of it. You can organize what is useful to you. You can organize what is important to you. You can organize what you need in that phase of life. What you cannot organize is clutter, which is why when we say declutter, it means clutter, go away.
So I suppose that the word there is try to understand is what is clutter before we move on. I mean, what is clutter? Because sometimes someone's a kleptomaniac, collects everything, and we have garages full of stuff. And we've got clothes that we never wear, and we've got stuff all over the place, and we keep it for a rainy day.
So raise your hands, everybody who has ever accumulated anything in your life. We happen to be compulsive accumulators because we are humans. Unlike the animal kingdom, unlike the other creatures who live in nature, they do not, even if they build themselves a shelter, they do not create clutter inside it in terms of furniture and books and stuff. Human beings are the only ones who tend to accumulate. And a lot of that accumulation is physical as well as mental overwhelm. It just creates overwhelm. And there's a sense of we need more. We need more. Why do we have this sense of we need more? Because somewhere we have been taught or we have picked up in our growing up this idea that to be somebody, we need to be validated by having more. So clutter is basically, in a way, a mindset. And decluttering or getting rid of the clutter or looking towards focusing on a less cluttered lifestyle or less cluttered mind, having more focus is also a mindset. It's a shift in belief.
So would you say that decluttering is some sort of, like, are we talking about making yourself bare, vulnerable? Are you why is that? What's the psychology around this? When if you throw declutter, donate, give it away, whatever, what are you saying?
It would be in a way vulnerability because we have to face who we are. We have to face what makes us who we are. What is our definition of who we are? And if our definition of who we are, our self-identity is linked to the stuff we have, then there is somewhere a misalignment because that's not who we are. The stuff does not define us. The things do not define us. The degrees, the titles that we have do not define us. And if they do define us to an extent or do define us to a big, large extent, then we need to have a look at ourselves. We need to be vulnerable enough to face ourselves.
Is this also tied to abundance?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Having a lot of things sometimes is not abundance. Having the things that bring joy to us, having the things that give us beauty, that give us quality, that give us satisfaction, that is abundance. And a lot of time people tend to accumulate a lot of stuff thinking that the more stuff we have, the more choices we will have in life. Whereas many times less is more. I have a background in fashion, and one of the fashion icons was Chanel. And her philosophy was build something, build a dress, and then start removing until you can remove no more. And you reach the simple, classic, the beautiful lines of the clothing. That's where less is more. That's where you reach the essence of life. And decluttering is basically paring down everything that's there so that you can reach the essence of what is life for you. How many of us sitting here still have a lot of stuff around us, which is basically a lot of delayed decisions? That's what clutter is. We do not take a decision on getting rid of what is not serving us anymore, whether it is in our spaces, in our offices, in our business, in our life, in our thoughts, in our emotions, in our relationships. How many relationships do we have today which are cluttering our time and our life? That's a good question. Why don't we just think about it, and let's just open the floor here. What do you say?
Well, just think about decluttering there. Has anyone ever decluttered a person or an item or something like that, only to they say, oh, I made a mistake, I want to go back, and actually try to go back to recoup that, recover that relationship or something like that, and it's all gone bad? Has anyone, I'm just thinking about decluttering, I don't know. Michelle, you're pulling faces. Tell us something of what's on your face.
Morning, everyone. No, not that situation where you declutter and then regret afterwards. I'm just getting a sense of this declutter is about knowing, like Tina just said, about knowing who we are. It's about prioritizing our values and what is more important. I think it's prioritization here of what's really important to us. Sometimes there's a possession that is important. It feels there's a need. So I suppose it's about being open and honest with that. And actually, what need is it filling? There's a need behind a need behind a need behind a need. And I suppose that's what I'm hearing right now. For me, it's values-based. The stuff I have, I would like to think there's a connection somewhere with my values and what's important to me. I would like to think. So that's why I'm here, actually, to see whether there's any space for decluttering more. That's it. That's all I've got on my mind. Thank you.
Believe me, there's always space, Michelle. And this is from somebody who's shifted countries, who shifted houses. While growing up, we used to shift from place to place every 18, 24 months. So invariably, things would either get lost in transit or something or the other. And I realized that I had developed a very, I wouldn't know if it is unhealthy or unhealthy to a certain extent, connection to stuff, because it was the stuff that created the home for me. That was familiar for me. And as I went through life, I realized there was more stuff than I could handle. At a time, everything that we have becomes too much for us. We do not have the energy for it. And that's where, when the stuff or the thoughts or the relationships become too heavy, they become life-draining rather than life-giving, is when it's time to take a good look at what's around us and create space. And sometimes the beginning, what happens is we try to organize it so that we can order stuff. But when you have a lot of ordered stuff around, it's still there and it is still taking your energy. So at a certain point in time, the decision to face the need that it is filling needs to be taken. And that's where you say, okay, do I really need all of it? Or can I just keep one item or one something, which is really important to me, which fills the need to sufficiency, and I can just close the door on the rest of it by getting rid of it. That's where the idea comes to donate, to give away, to recycle, to reuse, or just put it in the trash can. That's the easiest.
I even found the word detox.
Yeah, it helps. It does.
Declutter, detox. I thought, oh, that's quite strong, a strong word.
It does. Who has ever chucked away, thrown, or gotten rid of something that they considered important, let's say in the recent period of time, and felt a sense of liberation? And you realize you've just been carrying it along for such a long time, dusting it, taking care of it. It was there. Every time you opened the box of emotions used to open up, and then you would take some time to settle back into your emotions. And then one day you just decided to get rid of it, or somebody did for you. Sometimes that also happens. And then once you get over the sense of grief, the sense of loss, the thing isn't there anymore. It's no longer weighing on you somewhere in the background, and you're free of it. That's why people hire professionals to come and declutter.
Wow.
Because they are not emotionally involved with the stuff. We are.
I have a technique that I use for I have a bag, and when I find clothes that I'm not wearing, I can't get rid of it because it has some sort of emotional connection. So I put it away in the bag so I can't see it. And I fill that bag up. And for about a month, I don't see those clothes. So I don't know they're there, but I see the bag just getting bigger because I was putting stuff in there. And after a month, if I haven't opened that bag, then I know it's time to give it away.
That's a wonderful technique. Out of mind, out of sight, and then eventually out of the house or out of your
I just
environment.
take it to the homeless shelter or something. I just give it away, even though I know inside I think there's some stuff that I really like, that cardigan, that pullover, those jeans, those I really like. Then if I haven't seen it, it's gone. Then I said it's gone, it's gone, it's gone.
That's a very good technique because the moment you open the bag and you start pulling it out, back come those emotions, and the emotions sit in our bellies normally. So the best thing is to put it away. And like you said, if you don't use it for a certain amount of time, hand it away, give it away. There's no going back after that. And what does that do to your wardrobe?
Can I make an observation?
Go ahead.
No, Paul.
Morning, Gary. Morning, Tina. I'm
Morning,
sure.
everyone.
Hi.
I bet. I was just, you know, for me, the thing that comes up is I'm looking around, I collect Buddhas and, you know, and perfumes and a few other things. So I'm like, yeah, I think moving to Spain, you know, bringing 150 bottles of perfume was maybe excessive, wasn't necessary. I'm now thinking of reducing some of them. I've been giving away, but I look at my Buddhas and I'm like, they're all just so serene and stuff. I don't know if I can do that. And then I had another comment about people. You know, you talk about decluttering with people. And the thing that came up for me was I've had, you know, I'm reconnecting with people I have decluttered in my past. And what I've come to realize to a degree is it's that version of me that couldn't see them for who they were. So I decluttered them. So they weren't good enough for me. I wasn't just not the right me for that relationship. And then you declutter and you say, you want to go back and have that person again. And I think sometimes it happens, even in short amounts of time. We're not ready for the relationship. So we walk away from somebody that could be a friend because we're not turned up correctly. So that worries me. It's like having realized this at the age of just over 50 now. I'm like, I wish I had, because there's this one friend that I was friends with in my 20s. You know, that's when you have lots of friends, but there's this one particular guy who was very close to Warren. And I can't remember his surname and I can't find him on Facebook, and it's annoying me because it would be nice to have that connection, to make that connection again. So yeah, it's just what you're talking about brings up lots of thoughts.
Just what you said.
You're lucky there, Paul, that you still have that. You haven't decluttered. I think you've just probably shelved it. I was just thinking a very similar thing is like when you read a book, I read that and that book's just too much for you. You can't take it in. You are not ready for that book. And you pick that book up after a year or 6 years or 10 years, and you pick it up and you have changed, and then you understand the book, the message. And maybe what you're saying there's also with the person at that time, you're not ready for that person. And yeah.
Books is another thing I collect.
I'm guilty of that too. That's something I cannot throw away. It's tough. I still have some of my school books. I'm in my mom's home right now. So there's still my journey through life in some phases. And there will be a time when it will definitely not serve even any value or any need inside me, and I will declutter those. I just wanted to say what Paul said brought me to how about decluttering in our life, the regrets, the worries, and the fears that we have. How much of it do we carry with us? How much of that energy do we carry day to day? How would that impact our lives?
I think it's like, how do we know it's like I'm listening to Gary, and he reminds me of my husband Tony, who likes to get rid of clothes only so he can buy more. So so I don't know, Gary, do you go and shop afterwards? And
No, then I complain because I've got no clothes.
yeah, exactly. That's Tony to a T. He gets rid of shirts, and then he goes, I don't, oh God, it's gone. I need more shirts. So it's a process, but people benefit from that. But sorry, where was I going with that? I was just, you do wonder, is there a formula? You know, is it Mary Kwan who does the declutter thing? And you wonder if there's a formula for knowing that you're decluttering correctly. Or, I mean, like I'm looking back and I think I wish I had the knowledge I had now to do that.
Mary Kondo speaks about, she's got a method. I've used her method many years ago when it started, because I needed to declutter my home. One of the things that I did agree with her was look at everything and ask, does it spark joy? Is it useful? Is it beautiful? And that is again a decision. It's an intentional decision. Why am I keeping this object, or why do I have this object? If it is not beautiful for me, aesthetics come really high on the list. Next is functionality. And then the third thing is does it mean something to me? Is it a part of my life that I don't want to right now get rid of? One thing I don't agree with her was the books. She didn't agree in keeping a lot of books. For us who are bookaholics, the books cannot go. The books, I will get out of the house, but the books remain. So we all decide that, is there a right or a wrong way to do it? How do we know that? Anybody?
Philip, you got any observations on decluttering? Philip or Yvette or Jackie?
I don't know. I find what Paul said was as well as interesting. Like maybe sometimes it's difficult to recognize what is clutter and what is not clutter. It's maybe not so easy, because what's clutter for some people could be not clutter for others. I went to see a friend lately, and he lives a little bit further away from where I live. And then when I came to his apartment, I said, "Oh, have you just moved in?" And he said, "No, I've lived here for 3 years." And I was looking up because I was like, there was no paintings. There were it was just white walls. And he said, "Oh, because I don't like clutter." And so it's like, it's interesting, this idea, because me, obviously, I like painting. So I have paintings everywhere. And so it's like, what is clutter for him and what is clutter for me? It's a big question.
It is subjective. Some people find creativity in clutter. So it's also a question of comfort zones. What is your comfort zone personally? So as we move through the phases in life, we realize what is purposeful for us, what is necessary for us, what is good for us. And then if it no longer serves us, it becomes clutter. If it serves a purpose, and like Michelle said, it serves a need under a need under a need, then we still have that comfort zone, or that security buffer, that balloon, that buffer around us that gives us a sense of security. But when it crosses that and it starts becoming a drain on our energy, that's when it's time to look at it and say, it's time to do something about it.
Yeah.
Everybody decides. So my definition of clutter is going to be very different from somebody else's definition. And what is right for me will not be right for them. So all of us, each of us individually chooses our clutter, our comfort zone, our sense of order, sense of peace. And if it does not bring us peace, somewhere or the other, it's clutter. That's another way to define what's clutter or not.
Yeah, it'd be really
life-giving
to understand when you get to that tipping point and you say, okay, that's got to go, or that person's got to go, or that situation's got to, or that regret's got to be left behind. Because very often we take all of that with us, that excess baggage. And I saw that I've written my autobiography, my Free to Fly, and there was talking about excess baggage that I was carrying in my life. And it was great because it was also a great excuse when things were going wrong. I would just say, oh, all of that's the reason for that. And then when it came to that point when I had to let that go, but none of that excuses anymore now, so I can't go back. I can't just say I had it tough and so that's why I'm such a shit today. I can't say that.
And see, when we remove the excess from our lives, that's when it's time to face who we are, basically, what's around us. And if we haven't worked on who we are, it's time to work on it, or it's easy to go down under and start collecting it again.
Yvette, Jackie, you got any observations on this decluttering?
Well, I tend to keep everything. So I recently moved house and I had to get rid of things because I had to, but I didn't want to. So it's hard for me, to be honest.
That's where a coach comes in handy.
Yeah, I think it's because we're so attached to the things that we keep. And then we don't know when to let go. So it's just the same for me. I've been decluttering for several years. I started with, of course, when my kids grew, I had to, remove this stuff, donate. And then so recently my daughter came home and she said, "Mom, you have to let go of our college stuff." And so that is what I'm decluttering now. It's in a way, it's like, okay, I will. And so I did that last night. It was so hard. Oh, this is the time when you did this. And it was hard to let go because it's part of the memories when they were growing up. And then you just have to just let it go. And then you realize when you let go, as you said earlier, there's relief and there's more space for something new.
There's a principle which says what we focus on expands. So every time you pick up a piece of equipment, a piece of something that you have a memory attached to, when you focus on it, that's when the emotions start rushing in. But like Gary said, if you box it and then if you haven't used it, you give it away without even opening it. It's so easy, and then you're liberated without having the emotional turmoil. What happens when we get rid of stuff? What happens to our spaces?
They open up.
They open up, they breathe. There's allowing energy to flow through, fresh energy comes in. That's why traditionally you have spring cleaning and New Year's cleaning and Christmas cleaning and all festival cleaning. There's a reason behind it. It allows you to look at the stuff that you have, identify what is no longer necessary, and get rid of it. And it makes space for new stuff, fresh stuff, what is currently in alignment with the life you're living.
I was just reflecting on the word on decluttering. Is that sort of also has a meaning to declutter clients?
Everything. Everything in life. Anything that does not give you energy, that saps your energy, needs to be gotten rid of.
Anyone have any stories about clients that would drain your energy? Yeah, and
I do.
You're there, and you're all your energy is going into that client, and that's the client you have to declutter because they're taking all that focus, all that energy away from other clients or new markets where you'd be happier and so on. So, I don't know, anyone have any experience on that?
When I started coaching, and I did not have had not yet learned to discern. And then I realized there were some people who were taking away more energy than what was being given back to me in terms of satisfaction or even monetary value. And when I learned to discern, I realized I will not take up anybody who saps my energy because my life, my energy, and my time are more precious than that. And in this, the Pareto principle comes in. 20% of your clients bring in 80% of your income, and 80% of your clients tend to give you a little income. Can you start decluttering those? Will it make space for more clients to come in, the ones who are more aligned with you, with your system, with your whatever you're offering?
I usually find in sales in my company in South Africa that it is the clients, those that 80% that is always a few, and the ones that don't pay well and that don't, you don't get a rush from selling them a product. When they call, you're going, oh God, not again. And you don't want people like that. It's also the same with people I've worked for in their companies. The smaller companies they don't want to pay for services, but they want to take up all your time. And you have to basically go, I can't do that. I have principals that pay a lot of money for my time and for my staff. And now what you want to not pay because you're a small company, but you want to dictate my business. No, you can't do that. You have to really learn how to just say no to those people.
Which is not easy, because especially when it's connected to a revenue and income.
Well, I've done it. When I built up this one brand. They were not a known brand. They were in 2 stores in the Cape. And 2 years later, 3 years when I left them, they were in all their house stores and they were starting to pick up nicely with practitioners. But as you know, they changed how they operated. Suddenly they wanted to control me. You can't have any, when it suited them for me to have other brands, because those other brands were paying my salary and my income, and they didn't have to pay me a huge salary. Suddenly, what I was earning from them was a tipping point. It's like now they can hire a few reps for what they were paying me. And then it's like, and they wanted to start controlling. And I remember I nearly had a breakdown because it was like, and my values were just such, I got into working for myself for my freedom and to work for myself and not be controlled, because I didn't want to be corporate. I don't like hierarchical systems. So I had support, I had some money, just enough to start, and I had a name. So people trusted me that I would deliver and so on. So I was able to pivot within a year, but it's scary, you know, because you have to give up what's a major portion of your revenue, and you have to, can you do that? And it was, for me, it was just like, I can't sell my soul. It was really, really like that. I felt ill for it. And I remember just sliding down the wall and thinking, how? I mean, there was not that word, it was another. It was like, I can't do that. And I had to let them go, because it would then be an abusive relationship. And I wasn't going to be in that abusive relationship. So I had to let them go. And then I really had to look at who the people were that I worked with. And I had to make sure that I spread my risk and had more people coming on board that could pay and make the difference. And I kept the thing that's important to me, my freedom, my time. I control that. I give you a service. You're not buying my time. You don't, you know, so that's my story.
Yeah. Well, you see that. Philip, anything in decluttering there? Decluttering clients?
Decluttering clients it's hard to, because it also depends maybe on what type of clients we're talking about. I've understood that some of you guys are coaches as well, so maybe it's easier then. But I guess also like the experience I've had most is teaching, and even with students, sometimes you have to be like, you can't focus on all the details. We have to like listen to the gist of things, and you have to understand the main core of things, and you can't just be like detail oriented. Maybe that's a bit of decluttering as well, a little bit. Or maybe like preconceived thoughts as well. That's something that that you have as well. As a student comes in and says, this is difficult, and you have to like maybe declutter also that mindset, so to speak, and say, it is difficult, but it's not as difficult as you are imagining it. Maybe something like that can also be. And then we said before, difficult clients, like taking too much time. Now doing also some consultancies for the school, having people come in and be like, yeah, of course I'm interested. And then you call them and you call them and you call them, and they're like, yeah, next week. And then in the end, you're like, how many hours did I spend on trying to get this person down? And yeah, this also maybe also for our schedule, so to speak, to declutter and say, and maybe to find the idea that we talked about before, the point where we have to realize if something is clutter or not. And it's not easy always, definitely not, but also that could be.
May I throw in a question? What are the standards that we are setting for ourselves? And life is going to give that answer to us. So when we are aligned with our values, when we are aligned with is this worth my time and energy and my resources? And that becomes a standard, the yes or the no. That is really helpful in decluttering a lot of things. How much do we need to really survive and thrive? What is our definition of success and thriving in life? Is it built on materialistic things? Is it built on a bank balance? Is there any comparison with what's around us?
And that also makes me think about someone told me once as well that every yes to someone else is a no to yourself. It's also quite interesting if you think about it.
Where is our focus? What is it that we want in life? And as I've gone through life and I've shifted and I've lost stuff and I've been robbed, my house has been robbed a few times and everything, I've just realized my stuff is not who I am. The things I have are not who I am. And once you realize who you are, the rest of it all becomes superfluous.
Michelle, you got something to contribute there?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like full circle come round on that reflection. And whether we're talking about stuff as in possessions, or my biggest clutter that I have is ideas. It's my biggest clutter. What do I do with all these ideas? Sometimes it's full of ideas. And the only way I can, the word that Tina used earlier, actually, it's the word I'd written down, is that discernment. And the only way I can discern of whether it's going to serve me or that energy is right is a feeling. And listening back to Paul, I would love in hindsight to think about those feelings he had with those decisions he made. Where was he feeling them? For me, what I've just realized is ideas come in. If they feel heavy, then I give them less attention. If they feel light, then for me, they feel that there's space for them, the space for them to expand. There's like a good energy around them. So for me, it's about that feeling again. If I look in my wardrobe and it feels heavy, it's like, I need to do something. If I open the wardrobe and it's a light feeling, then I don't need to do anything. And I suppose that's the same with my ideas, my decisions, my choices, everything I try to do. I wish I was perfect, but I'm not. I'll embrace the imperfect part of me. And it's about a feeling, because I'm looking around my room now thinking, okay, possession wise, it don't feel heavy. But when it does, I completely empty my room and bags or whatever go to the charity shop. But it's a feeling. So I'm sat here now thinking, actually in my life, yeah, maybe my ideas are a little bit heavy. I've got lots and lots and lots and lots of ideas in my head. So that's an area that I need to focus on because it's heavy. But if it's not heavy, then I'm not gonna waste my energy on it, because it will probably be my saboteurs telling me I need to do this, or past conditionings telling me, oh, maybe you should look underneath that and explore that idea. But if it feels heavy, then I know it doesn't serve me. Will I regret it? That's a choice I make. Does that make sense? If it comes back again as another idea and it feels lighter, then I may explore it. But that's just what I've got from all you guys talking. It's like, okay, it's what feeling does it give me? That's our only guide. I'm looking for emotions constantly. That's how I live my life. We're looking for these emotions for some need again. And that's for me heavy and light and dark. That's I suppose my strategy. I've just realized, so thank you all guys. I just realized what I actually do. And is it working for me? Well, proof will be in the pudding. I'm happy, freedom, peace. I feel those right now. I have a sense of them. So something must be working somewhere. Let's see what's around the corner.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Michelle. I think light and heaviness and lightness, yeah. And I was just thinking also the energy that it drains of you when, people, and I was just, when you were talking, I was just thinking, yeah, when you have that client that just takes all your energy and all your focus and all your time, I think that's the really thing when and that's when feels heavy. You pick up the phone call and that person's on the other side, you think, oh my God, no. And then you've got to deal with that. And yeah, it's strange. Yvette, Jackie, you guys are not any thoughts on that? Lightness, being light, heavy?
Yeah, but actually what Michelle said has created so much thoughts right now. And then going back to clients, sometimes it's a friend who is so toxic. Let's use the word toxic, who calls you up the first thing in the morning and takes up your whole day. At first, okay, I'm going to be a good friend. But until when are you going to be a good friend? Keeping your 2 hours, 4 hours of your morning until such time that, you have to decide, no matter how difficult it is, and no matter how you think, am I still a good friend? But then, this is not helping me. I'm also feeling the burden. And it really felt like Michelle said, the emotion. It was already so heavy for me that she would call every morning and then just dump everything. And then, so I said, okay, I think that it is time to declutter, to I have to decide to have excuses not to talk to her. And then finally I was able to tell her that you're taking so much of my time. And if it will be the whole thing every day, I think she should go to someone who can help her.
I'd like to offer something on that. I guess we have all, to an extent in our lives, been through this kind of a situation where people come and they take up your time and people talk to be nice. It's just as you go through learning who you are, you realize that you're not being nice. What you're actually being is an enabler for the victim mentality. Once you see things in that light, then it is very easy to start decluttering even those kind of things.
I like that, enabler, rather than feeling guilty.
If I don't want to support a victim mentality, then I will not give my time to those people who take my life away.
Yeah.
What do they call them? The energy drainers, Draculas, or
The energy vampires.
energy vampires. That's right. Yeah.
I have a question though. That person doesn't, may not have the insights or the learnings that we have, and may not understand. So how would you approach it? I mean, Yvette, did you break off the friendship? Did you just
Oh, no.
Did you just recreate the boundaries for the relationship? How did
Yes, having learned what we have learned already, I created boundaries for the relationship.
Okay.
So even if she calls me now, she say, okay, I'll just take up 10 minutes of your time. and I still give that 10 minutes. And then when it's 10 minutes, okay, I can call you tonight if you have more questions. But the boundaries have been set. And it was so hard. It was so difficult. I would get mad at myself for allowing it. I mean, for allowing her to take much of my time. But then, so decluttering, the vampires. So that helped. Enabler is a good word.
Actually, I'm just thinking of a very good book that I read, and they were talking about boundaries and something. I think it was called "Keep Your Love On." Keep Your Love On by a guy called Danny Silk, and there they were talking about how to love a person and not give all of yourself, because then you're taken advantage of and you lose your energy and so on, but to keep the love on by actually setting boundary lines and so on. So if you get a chance, you like reading, take a look at that book. That was very interesting. I found that very interesting. Keep Your Love On by Danny Silk.
Oh, I'll do. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
We can love people without giving them access to ourselves, to us, to our time and energy. And sometimes we think it's just time. But like Yvette says, it starts in the morning and it is a mindset. It is a drain on your energy. It turns the focus of your day completely. So she's still very sweet that she gives them 10 minutes of her time. Sometimes it's good to take a break, seriously disappear, go missing in action or whatever it is, and then come back to the relationship and see if it is really worth maintaining and at what level. I've become very ruthless in blocking people if I have to, because every person, every relationship comes with, is this helping me? Is it worth my time? And there's the flip side to it. If I'm being an enabler for somebody, am I also taking up too much time of somebody else? Am I feeding of somebody else? It makes you reflect on what is happening with you. What are you doing with your relationships?
Tina, some tools and resources. Are there any tools that we can use in the office when we want to declutter? We want to emails and phone calls. Are there any techniques that we can use? Don't answer the phone call, just messages, just voice messages. How do we declutter? How do we create that space?
Those would be techniques. What has really worked for me is the Eisenhower matrix. Priorities. What is important and urgent? What is only urgent? What can be delegated? What are my boundaries? Will I have a look at the news in the morning? Will I have to look at the emails in the morning? How easy it is to open your inbox and get lost and 3 hours disappear in just answering others' queries to the demands on your time. And that's where you learn how to discern, you learn how to delegate, and you realize, do I really need it? And if you don't even bother replying. We just pick up the phone sometimes. We become so used to texting that we forget that sometimes it's just easy to have a 3-minute call and get everything done with. There are a lot of techniques, and I guess you guys would be able to put more, but it's the Eisenhower matrix. What is my priority today?
There's another one, Tina, that goes really well with the Eisenhower. You talked about energy drains and people like that. It's to do with energy, and it's similar in the sense that, because I try to map the two across each other. They don't map perfectly, but it's to do with what inspires me and energizes me. So what's important and what inspires me and energizes me. So you can finally ultimately have only the things that really give you a boost of energy. It's not always possible. I mean, I'm aware, but it's kind of a nice way to look at it as well.
Let me just ask a question. And this has been going on in my head for a while when I look at my life. And since I've shifted around a bit, again, getting my routines in order has become sometimes difficult. So one of the questions I ask myself is, how much of what we do is actually really necessary and actually serves us? Starting from morning to late. Another thing that comes up for me is time that I enjoy wasting is never wasted. How many times do we not give time to ourselves to enjoy what we really love, what inspires us? Because we tell ourselves the story, like Kane says, that we need to do this, we should be doing this, this is necessary for my business, this is important for my overall image in the market or whatever it is. How much of it is actually truly necessary? And the only person who limits us is ourselves.
And that's a really good segue into your topic for the day of decluttering, because it's decluttering all the things that don't serve us. I mean, I'm aware of those things I've been doing. I keep lists of to-dos and so on to try and tweak what time of the day suits me best to do what. When it's like when I should just stop. But I found this time, a lot of people talk about the 5 a.m. time. I'm never going to wake up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or anything like that. But you know, when I'm really creative, it's between 4 and 6:30. So I've made that a time when I've gone, because like normally you want to go, okay, well, it's end of day, I've done all the tasks. But you go, no, that's a really good time for me. So it allows me this time over here to step away and go out for a coffee or just go and do something else to sort of feed the spirit. You know, sometimes it's just nice to go look at the sky and people and things.
Yeah, an important point there, Paul, is even when I work with mentees or coachees, is putting in the reward. Like, you know, it's something that we don't think about. It's like, let's do it, the to-do tasks, we just get everything done. And I was talking to one of my a mentee the other day. We were just going through something, and I said, okay, stop, you've done everything now, just don't do any more. Just go and, I don't know, go away for the weekend, whatever it is. And it was great because you actually got some focus on You've done the hard work. Now just sit back and look at the sky, take an aperitif or go for a walk or just treat yourself. You've earned it. And that's probably what you were talking about. Wasted time is not wasted time. Or, or
Time spent, time enjoyed is not wasted.
Yeah.
I spoke about our identity in the beginning, and the question that I asked myself is, who am I being while I'm doing what I'm doing? The being is really important because we are human beings, we're not human doings. And there's this concept which is based on productivity, which says get more done, so you will have more value in the marketplace or whatever it is. Whereas who we are is enough. Once we realize that, then the next question is, what is the purpose of this life? And actually, if I ask this question, what is the purpose of your life? Life has really no purpose. We are the ones who decide what we want to do with our time, with our resources. And if we enjoy living, if we are rooted in our lives, that is its own purpose. Is it not?
See, my brain's going now, see, I don't want to disagree, but it's like, when my first business started from a calling, like I couldn't not do. It's the same way I couldn't say yes to that company for their demands. There's this thing in me, and there was a calling to do what I was doing. And I had a really comfortable life in South Africa, and I had everything, but there was a calling to do what I want to do, because I was like, there's reasons to move to Spain, but it was also a calling to deep dive into the coaching. There's just this thing I couldn't get away from. I ignored it for years. I did the coaching training and then just went back to my business because it's the comfort zone, and I enjoy it because it was also helping people. But it was like, so I'm going to say, just like, there is this, for me, is this that element of calling as well. It's that you pull towards it so that it aches. You have to, if you don't do the steps, you feel like you're just deceiving yourself, or you're losing out on what you're supposed to be.
When is the time to quit on what we do?
When you're probably
Whatever we are doing.
not in line with your values, with your being, as you were saying before. I think it's being the being in everything that you do, and not in just some areas. I think that's where it comes to some sort of idea of who you are and how you want to show up, whether it's at work or within a friendship or on a tennis court or whatever, and try to be that same being everywhere. I think that's probably whether there is a purpose in life or not, but to actually be.
It's like Michelle said, tune into your feelings. When you start getting up in the morning and it's a drag to get up and go and do what you're called to do or you need to do, that's the time to quit or change. Be in tune with your feelings. Who am I being? How am I being? How am I showing up? And if I'm going to be showing up with half my energy and grumpy and disgruntled, then it's time to quit and look into the next step, the next calling, the next purpose.
So as we're coming to the end of our webinar, of the hour, so how can we take this away, this decluttering, Tina? Well, can you just give us a few words just to finish off?
I would just ask everybody what has been their thoughts on what we've spoken about. For me, I think I've spoken a lot about it. It's just creating space for who you are or who you're stepping into being.
I just want to thank you, Tina. This is a great topic, and thanks, Gary, because it's one of those that doesn't come up on your radar. It was on my radar this weekend when I was decluttering my desk, but it's not. And you've made it really interesting, and you've added layers to it that I haven't considered. So yeah, there's a lot of takeaways from me. So thank you.
Thank you for participating.
Sorry. I'd like to thank you as well, because I've noticed I have to on a personal level, I need to start saying no a bit more often. I tend to say yes, I'm a yes person. And that means not saying yes to myself. So I need to improve on that and perhaps declutter some people and things. So thank you so much. Unfortunately, I have to leave. So thank you again. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Tina. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
All right.
No, it's a complete sentence.
Yeah. Anyone, Yvette, what's your takeaway from the decluttering?
Well, there's so much decluttering, not only physically. I started thinking only of the physical things around, but it entails so much more. It entails how we really, the thoughts, the people around us, and how do we want to be for ourselves. That's the most important thing. And when we realize that, like for myself, that you are true to who you are, then you will not be afraid to let go and declutter, because then you really have your inner peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Michelle?
Yeah, ditto to both of those. I love what you just said there about, just that self-reflection back again. Doesn't matter how self-aware we are, how much self-reflection we do. I want to add a pinch there of self-compassion as well. Without that pinch of self-compassion, we believe that we're infallible. We can keep going. We can keep, of course we can do that. We can do that. We can do that. But it weighs. There's a weight behind it. There's a energy blocker. Let's just say it's an energy blocker. And if we want to keep that energy flowing, then it is. We've just got to stop every now and again and listen to ourselves. So I appreciate the hour, because you've allowed me to stop, pause, do a bit of self-reflection and introspection while hearing other perspectives. So of so much value. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Philip, your declutter, what are you taking away from here?
Yeah, I'm taking away that it's easier said than done, and that sometimes we can confuse clutter with what is not clutter. And I keep telling my students as well, sometimes they're like, oh, I don't have time to read, I don't have time to do these important things, because when I get home I watch TV series and it's stupid. And I say, no, it's not stupid, because if you need that time to shut off your brain and just do something else, then it's important for you. So yeah, I've also understood now, like, it's very subjective, very much about your priorities and your values. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think clutter is also exciting sometimes. You know, I look at my day and I've done so many things. At the end, I think, wow. So it's like an internal battle. One saying, oh, I feel so relieved, you've done so many things. And the other thing, why did I really need to do all those things? Really? And so just a little bit of awareness and a bit of slowing down, being a little bit more mindful and enjoying fewer things. Yeah, less is more. So that's my takeaway from here. Tina, thank you very much for your time and your knowledge and all the insights that you brought along. Thank you, everyone else, for coming along.
All.
Hope we're all taking something away, and hope to see you next week. BEwell.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Everyone.
Ciao.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. How was that?
That was good. I had a presentation, but it went really well with the questions that you asked. There was no need of that. You still have the recording on, by the way.
Oh, it says end meeting, leave meeting, maybe.
Oh, you can just switch off the recording.
How do I switch? It's still recording.
Now you can pause it or stop it. Oh, yeah.